welcome to stream 28, where I continue learning FastAPI. And today we'll look at a topic called bigger applications, multiple files. This should be the point which helps us deal with multiple files, because if you notice, since stream number 1, we've been putting everything in one file. So I guess this will help us structure the application better. So let me start without wasting time. They're saying if you're building an application or a web API, it's rarely the case you can put everything in a single file. Okay, this is the case maybe with toy applications or simply scripts. But even then, certain times when a script is getting too big, you split things around. Okay, so you're saying FastAPI provides a convenience tool to structure your application while keeping all the flexibility. So let's discover what that tool is. They say if you come from Flask, this would be equivalent of Flask's blueprints. Okay, so for those of you who know Flask, not Flask, but Flask, this should be familiar to you. Okay. Excuse me. So I got some kind of flu and my throat gets interrupted from time to time. So let's continue saying an example of file structure. Let's say you have a file structure like this. Okay, so we have a main directory called app. Okay, which is a package because of this. Okay, we know that directories in a Python project having the init module file are packages. Okay, then here we have main.py. We have dependencies. We have routers, which is another package. How do I know it's a package? Because of init.py. Okay, so as long as any directory has an empty init.py, automatically that directory is a valid Python package. Then we have items.py, users, then we have what we call internal, which is also a package, then admin.py. Okay, so you're saying there are several init.py files, one in each directory or subdirectory. This is what allows importing code from one file into another. Okay, so this is basic Python. If you know Python, this is what enables us to import code from one file to another. The same, for example, in app main.py, this one here. Okay, so app main.py, you could have a line like from app.routers import items. Okay, so inside here you can say from app.routers import items. You're inside the main.py file, and you say from app.routers import items. Okay, so let's continue reading. They're saying the app directory contains everything. It has an empty app init.py file, so it's a Python package, in brackets a collection of modules. So yeah, what I just said. So maybe let's recreate it. Okay, I'll come here and yeah, just delete everything right here and try to create that structure. So we have a directory called app. Okay, I need to rename this correctly. So app, we have underscore init underscore.py. Okay, then they say it contains a main.py file. Okay, that's the next one I need to create, like so. And they're saying as it is inside a Python package, a directory with a file init.py, it's a module of that package, app.main. So they go on to say there's also app dependencies.py file. Okay, just like app.main.py, it's a module app.dependencies. So yeah, I can create that. So okay, so if I go back to this tree structure, so I have so far these three. Okay, then they say there's a subdirectory app/routers with another in underscore init underscore py. It's a Python sub package app.routers. Okay. Yeah, so far so good. I see nothing complex. I can just copy this and paste this one inside there. Okay. They're saying the file app/router/items.py is inside a package app.router. So it's a sub module. Okay. So we can create this sub module. We go into routers, create it, items.py. Okay. Wait, do we have a, feels like I have multiple underscores somewhere. Let me see. Underscore. Okay. Yeah, it's supposed to be like this. So I can just copy this here, move, and delete this other one. Okay. So, okay, let's continue. The same with app routers.users.py and the sub module app.routers.users. Okay. So I'll copy that. Quickly create it. Then they say there's also a subdirectory app/internal with another file init.py. So it's another sub package app.internal. So let's create that sub package under app. Okay. I can simply copy this. Okay. Undo. I need to copy init.py and paste it inside the internal. Okay. Oh, actually, even this one only requires one. I removed it. So this is the current tree. Okay. Routers, internal, we have app.internal, app.routers. Okay. Then they say, and the file app internal has admin.py, another sub module. So I'll get inside here and we have that. Okay. So app.internal.admin.py. We have app.routers.items, app.routers.users. Then we have app.dependencies, then app.main.py. Yeah, I think this is clear. I go on to, yeah, this they have a diagram here, okay? The package, okay, this is the main one, app, init.py, then they have the module, app.main, okay? Then they have app, a module app.dependencies, which is app/dependencies.py, okay? So these two, okay, are these, this, and this, okay? Then they have these ones, app.routers, then app.internal, okay? And app.internal has the init, okay? And it has the admin.py, okay? And the router also has an init, has items.py and users.py, okay? So yeah, what I just showed you here. Internal having init and admin, routers having init, items, users, okay? So yeah, let's continue. Yeah, so this is just regular Python, okay? So let's see how FastAPI comes in. They say the same file structure with comments, okay? So they're just trying to emphasize the point. So here we see they have app, okay? Is a Python package, okay? Then init.py, the file which makes app a Python package. Like, of course, we are already Python developers, we know this. They have main, a module, okay? And for example, we can import it by saying eg import app.main, okay? We have dependencies, a module, and we can import it by saying, for example, import app.dependencies. We have routers, which is a Python package. The underscore init.py makes routers a Python package, okay, sub package, I mean, which means router is a sub package. Items is a sub module, and we can import it by saying app.routers.items, okay? Users is also a submodule, and we can port it by saying app.routers.users. Rohit Kumar. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for joining today's stream. How are you doing, Rohit, today? I hope things are making sense to you, Rohit. So let's continue. They say internal, okay? Internal is a Python sub package, okay? And init.py underscore init underscore underscore makes internal a Python sub package. Then we have admin.py, which is the admin submodule, and we can import it by saying import app.internal.main. So ideally you start from app here, okay? This package, okay, to this package, to this package. I don't know, Rohit, if you're still here. Then we also have yeah, that's basically it. Okay, so they just try to describe this in several ways. Okay, you simply start from the root package to the module, or root package to sub package to a module. So now we come to the interesting part, the app router. They say, let's say the file dedicating to handling just users is at the sub module at app routers users.py. Okay, so you say app, okay, app, open, we go to routers, then users.py. I can delete these others. Okay, you want to have the path operations related to your users separated from the rest of the code to keep it organized. But it's still part of the same fast API application or web API. It's part of the same Python package. You can create the path operations for that module using APIRouter. Okay, so we want all the path operations related to users to be separate. Okay, let's continue. So the first thing we do to achieve that is to import the API router. Okay, and they say you import it and create an instance the same way you would with the class FastAPI. Okay, so from FastAPI, import API router, then you create an instance. So in routers users.py, okay, say from, just like the way we do from FastAPI, okay, import FastAPI, okay, like this, okay. The same applies to the same thing, okay. Whereby we always say, we always do something like this, that app equals to FastAPI like this. The same thing can work for the router. So we shall say from FastAPI import, okay, because you see AI is trying to complete it for me. We import the API router, as simple as that. Then I can now say the router is equals to API router. And you see that this code is very similar, okay, to what we have above, okay. This is simply OOP. We're creating an instance of FastAPI and then an instance of the API router. So I will delete this other stuff. Okay, I'll delete this and leave the other and continue reading. Okay, so you see this is in app routers.users.py. So we are grouping all, the purpose is to group all path operations for users in one module. So, and like you can see, we have, I can copy all this, okay. Even guys who do Node.js should be familiar with this, okay. I think in Flask they call it blueprints. In Node.js, I think it's called, I mean, not Node, but Express, especially Express.js, they call it mounting, okay, mounting your router. So you see, we have a router. Then say router.get users, tags equals to users, okay. So you have two path operations. Actually, there are three, but all of them are being created using the router. Okay, so we have router, router, router. Okay, isn't this nice? Okay, so let's continue. So of course, I don't have to go through all these, okay, because we know we have studied path operations before. What is changing is using router. Instead of saying app dot, we use router dot, okay. So ideally it would be something like this. They're saying let me say from FastAPI import FastAPI, just to make sure you understand. Then I would say app, okay, is equals to FastAPI. So instead of saying at app, instead of saying router, can say at app.get like that, okay? But they are saying we don't do this. We use the router, okay? So what is simply changing is using router. By the rest, we know them, okay? I don't want to spend time explaining path operations and return types and tags, okay? We already know this. So I'll remove that, okay? And go back to our code, okay? So say path operations with API router. And then you can use it to declare your path operations. Use it the same way you would use the FastAPI class. Linus in the chat says, yes, you import router from Express and create its instance for defining routes separate from the server. Yeah, correct. Yeah, actually, I've taken note while working with Express, but you reminded me. Yeah, so you create the router from Express, then you create an instance of router, then you keep defining routes. So the concepts are the same. I always tell people I always interact with who are beginners that once you learn the concepts in one framework or using one programming language, it applies to all. Okay, it applies to all. They just change terms here and there, but it's the same thing. So in Express, they're calling it mounting the router. In Flask, they have something called blueprints. Okay, here we are seeing the same thing. Okay, so yeah, the same thing. Then you use it to declare your path operations. Use it the same way you would use the FastAPI class. Yeah, and this is what I just showed you. Excuse me. This is what I showed you. Okay. So you see, instead of saying app.get, you say router.get. So wherever where it should have been app, we are using router. So I just showed you this here, here, and here. Okay. Is that nice? So they say you can think of API router as a mini FastAPI class. Okay. All the same options are supported. Isn't that nice? And here they say all the same parameters, responses, dependencies, tags, everything, which means here, for example, imagine I had like a model, okay? Let me say class user, okay, which inherits from base model, okay? Base model, I'll use AI to autocomplete, okay? But I have to import base model, of course, okay? So I can say from Pindatic, import base model, okay? So again, if you don't know this, you can check the previous streams where we studied this. Then I can come here and I maybe say response, come on, let me remove all these things, okay? Response model, okay, equals to return a list of what? Return a list of users. Like that. This is supposed to be list, not lists. List of users. So all things like response model applies, okay? If I have a path, for example, like here, okay, this one is this path parameter, okay, I can say I can import type from typing, okay, from typing I import annotated, okay, then I come here to the I also need something else from FastAPI. I need query, okay, then I can come here, okay, let me just say, yeah, let me call it query, yeah, let me leave it as query. Then I come here, okay, and I can say maybe you're going to give me a limit, okay, to limit, okay, and I say we annotate it, okay. I see AI trying to help me. Annotated, okay, square brackets. After that, you can specify that limit is of type an integer, comma, and it's going to be it's a query parameter. Remember how we add metadata? It's a query parameter. Then I can give constraints. For example, it should be greater or equals to maybe 1, okay, like that. So everything else works. I see how nice it is, okay? So let me just continue, okay? So they're saying in this example, the variable called router, in this example, the variable is called router but you can name it however you want. Okay, but I would prefer to use router because router makes more sense. Okay, and I'm sure like Linus and everyone of you who has done like Express, you'll agree with me that it makes sense. Okay, and the fact that even the class is called API router, I'll just call it router. So they're saying we are going to include this API router in the main FastAPI app. But first, let's check the dependencies with another API router. Okay, so let's continue. They're saying we are going to need some dependencies used in several places of the application. So we put them in their own dependencies module. Okay, app slash dependencies dot py. Okay, we will use a simple dependency to read a custom X token header. Okay, so maybe I'll choose for Python 3.9 plus. Okay, the import annotated from typing. Okay, the import header and exception from FastAPI. Remember, we have a stream on header, we have a live stream also on exception. Then after that, they have a function called get token header, which is async def, and it takes in an X token, okay, and it's been annotated as a string, and it's actually a header parameter, okay, a string which is a header parameter. And they're saying if the X token is equals to fake super secret token, they raise an exception, okay, with the status code 400 with the details saying X token header invalid, okay. And this happens when the token is not, okay, I said is, but it's supposed to be is not this, okay. Then later they have an async def, say query get query token, which takes a token which is a string, okay, and both of these are required. And I think if token is not equals to Jessica, they also return a code, okay. So these are the dependencies, so I'll also copy and put in the same directory. Okay, so we have this one here, app, okay, it is in app, then dependencies.py, then I'll paste, okay, so simple stuff, okay. So yeah, let's continue. Tip, we are using an inverted header to simplify this example, but in real cases you will get results using the integrated security utilities. What are these security utilities? I just want to see a sneak peek. Okay, sneak peek into this. Oh, we said it about this. Okay, in fact we said it about OAuth 2. Let me not go into that. So I was just curious. Okay, yeah. So since we know that we can actually implement it on our own, and they're saying another module with API router. So they're saying, let's say you also have the endpoints dedicated to handling items from your application in the module at app/routers/items.py. Okay, so just to explain, if you go into routers, okay, items is for handling everything concerning all path operations for users. This is for this module users, okay, while item is for handling all issues concerning items, okay, path operations for items in items.py, path operations for users in users.py. So they're saying you have path operations for /items, okay, /items/item ID, okay, for getting all items, for getting a particular item, as simple as that. And they're saying it's all the same structure as with app routers users.py, but we want to be smarter and simplify the code a bit. We know all the path operations in this module have the same path, okay, have the same path prefix /items, okay, and tags. Just one for in right now they have just one tag items, and they have an extra they have extra responses and dependencies. They all need that X token dependency we created. Okay. Where is it? Here. This is the dependency. Okay. The X token dependency they've created. So we go up the saying. So instead of adding all that to each path operation, we can add it to the API router. Okay, isn't that nice? Okay, so I am going to copy, okay, the code, okay, and paste it here. Then we walk through it one at a time. Okay, so they're saying from FastAPI import router depends HTTP exception. Okay, then from dependencies import get token header. Okay, which is this one. Okay, then after that, what else? We can close this. They say router equals API router. The prefix is going to be items, just like also for users. Okay, we can mimic the same thing. Okay, for users, I can also say, put a prefix. Okay, here, since all of them start with users, users, users. Okay, I can also prefix this one. Okay, and I'll show you in a bit. So they say prefix is the prefix, meaning they'll start with all slash items, and they have the same tag items. So the same thing also for users, we can add to the API router, the tag, the general common tag. Dependencies, you see, so dependency is a list. Okay, they say depends on get token header, and responses 404 for when something is not found, you return a general message saying description not found. Okay, after that, if I scroll, now you see they say they have a fake database, okay, which is simply a dictionary. So here they say router.get. Now instead of saying router.get slash items, okay, it is simply router.get forward slash, okay, just like that. Why? Because of this prefix, okay. Here they would have said items, okay, slash id, but they don't have to do that. Why? Because there's a prefix here, so it will look at the prefix and put items before this. Okay, the same thing for put and this kind of stuff. Okay, so if we go back to the code, yeah, they highlight for us the parts which have changed here, which are affected, also this one. Okay, so they're saying as the path operation of each operation has to start with a forward slash, like in router.get forward slash slash item.id, the prefix must not include a final forward slash. Okay, meaning at the end here. Okay, we don't say slash items then another forward slash. You don't do that. Okay, you leave it out. So they're saying, so the prefix in this case is slash items. We can also add a list of tags and extra responses that will be applied to all path operations in this router. We can add a list of dependencies that will be added to all the path operations in the router and will be executed and solved for each request made to them. Okay, so the key point I'm getting from this is that, from what they've just said, is that any configuration you add to this applies to all the path operations, okay, that are created using the router. So yeah, it's something to take note of. So they're saying, note that much like dependencies in path operation decorators, no value will be passed to your path operation function. If you remember, okay, there are cases where dependencies are passed to the path operation, and there are cases where dependencies are not passed. Okay, so now we know that in path operation decorators, and when defining the dependency in your router, it is not passed the path operation. When you need dependency in your path operation, you have to define the dependency in the function definition itself. Like, where can I get an example? I can import, okay? Let me import a dependency, import it here, okay? When it is given to the path of operations, when I do something like this, okay? Maybe if I say maybe x underscore token, okay? X underscore token, okay? Then I say annotated, okay? They've given me the code. I can just press tab to autocomplete. What is this? So this way I hate AI. Okay, so I have to import depends. So you see, in this case, the value x token will be given from this, okay, from this function, from the dependency. So yeah, I just explained that just to remind you about that, okay? Let's continue. You see, the end result is that the item path are now items slash items ID as we intended. Like I told you, this prefix will be added to the beginning of all these paths, okay? And they said they will be marked with a list of tags that contain a single string items, okay? These tags are especially useful for the automatic interactive documentation systems using OpenAPI. All of them will include the predefined responses, okay? So all will have these tags, all will have these responses and have these dependencies. All these path operations will have a list of dependencies evaluated or executed before them. If you declare dependencies in a specific path operation, they will be executed too. Okay. Yeah, just like I think they have, did I see any? Let me see. No, they haven't. Okay, but we get the point. The router dependencies are executed first, then the dependencies in the decorator, then the normal parameter dependencies. That's the order. So router dependencies, decorator dependencies, parameter dependencies. And you're saying you can also add security dependencies with scopes. I don't know, didn't we look at this? Okay. Didn't we look at this? Something similar, okay? Okay, let me not confuse you. Let me close this and we continue. But we didn't actually in detail for that. Okay. Having dependencies in the app in the API router can be used, for example, to require authentication for a whole group of path operations, even if the dependencies are not added individually to each of them. Let me read this again. Having dependencies in the API router can be used, for example, to require authentication for a whole group of path operations, even if the dependencies are not added individually to each of them. Yeah, this is good. So they're saying the prefix tags responses and dependencies. The prefix tags, responses, and dependencies parameters are, as in many other cases, just a feature from FastAPI to help you avoid code duplication. Yeah, this is the goal. And by now, I think you should all realize that. Yes, Lena, thank you for that. That note. Yeah, Lena says scopes is what they have placed in advanced. So important dependency. Say this code lives in the module app.routers.items, the file app.routers.items.py. Okay, so which is simply this, which is open, this one here, app routers items.py. So they're saying when and we need to get a dependency from the function from the module. We need to get the dependency function from the module app.dependencies, the file app/dependencies.py. So we use a relative import with 2 dots for the dependencies, which is this. Okay, so they're now explaining bit by bit, which is simply this: the 2 dots and dependencies. Because when you're in items, okay, to reach dependencies, you first have to come out of this directory. Okay, That's the first dot. Then the next dot refers to this other one. Okay. Okay, so we continue how relative imports work. If you know perfectly how imports work, continue to the next section below. Yeah, we know that. Okay, saying a single dot, like in from dependencies import get token, that would mean, okay, let me just read this for those who may not know. Okay, starting in the same package that this module, the file lives in. Okay, so in other words, if we had only one dot like this, it would mean this one dot means start from here, inside here, where this file items.py is. Okay, to find the module dependencies, an imaginary file. Okay, at that, and from it import the function. Okay, but that file does not exist. Our dependencies are in the file at app/dependencies.py. Remember how our file structure looks like. Okay, they're simply reminding us, okay, that dependencies.py, okay, is in app, in the package app. So the two dots, they're saying, okay, mean starting in the same package in this module, which is the file items.py. Okay, this is real path, lives in the directory app.routers. Go to the parent directory, okay, which is app, and in there find the module dependencies, the file at app dependencies.py, and from it import a function get token header. That works correctly. Okay, so they say the same way if we use three dots, like in blah blah, these three dots dependencies import token header would mean starting in the same package, that is this module items.py, lives in the directory app routers. Okay, go to the parent. Okay, after the parent, then go to the parent of that package. And in this case, they're saying there's no parent package. App is the top level. Okay, so like you can see, there's no parent above this. Okay, and then in there find a module dependencies. Okay, then import get token header, and I think that would refer to the same package above app with its own init file, etc. But we don't have that, so that would throw an error in our example. But now you know how it works. You can use relative imports in your apps no matter how complex they are. Okay, so in this case, I have to fix it by putting this. Yeah, but this is basic Python. Okay, ideally we should know how to do this. Okay, add some custom tags, responses, and dependencies. They're saying we are not adding the prefix items nor the tag items to each path operation. Sorry, because we are not adding the prefix /items nor the tags to each path operation, because we added them to APIRouter. Yes, because they're added here. Okay, so you're saying, but we can still add more tags that will be applied to a specific path operation, and also some extra responses specific to that path operation. So these ones are general. Okay, but if we scroll, you see that these tags, okay, are specific to this path operation. Okay, and these responses are specific to this. Okay, like we see a 403 forbidden operation response, I mean. Okay, all right, let's continue. You're saying the last path operation will have the combination of tags, items, and customs. Okay, so this one here, it will have a combination of custom, this one, and the one up here, items. Okay, because this one applies to all, but this one is only specific to this. So this one here can't have custom, because custom is only for this path operation. But this one will have items. This one will also have the item tag. So say it will have both of the responses in the documentation, one for 404 and another for 403. Okay, it will have this one here specific to it, the 403 error response, and it will have a 404 response in its documentation. The main FastAPI, they say now let's look at the module at app main.py. Here is where you import and use the class FastAPI. This will be the main file in your application that ties everything together. and most of your logic will now live in its own specific module. The main file will be quite simple. So they say import FastAPI, import and create a FastAPI class normally, and we can even declare global dependencies that will be combined with the dependencies for each API router. Okay, so this is how main.py looks like. I'll copy it and go to app main.py, close these two, paste the code. Okay, so you see we have depends and FastAPI imported from FastAPI. We have get query token header, which are our dependencies imported from dependencies. Then we have admin from internal. Then we have our routers. Okay, and they say app equals to FastAPI, dependencies equals to dependencies. Okay, that get query token. Okay, so this applies to all. Okay, so say app dot include router users dot router. So this is the thing now, wiring them to the main FastAPI application. Then again, app dot include router items dot router, adding this one also to the main FastAPI application. They say app dot include router. They say admin dot router. Okay. Then they have a prefix, tags, dependencies, and responses. Okay, and a root message. Okay, so let's go on and we see their explanation. Okay, this is the first thing, import the API router. Now we import the other sub modules that have API routers. Okay, so we have internal. If I go to internal, okay, but here of course we have no router ideally. Okay, unless they quoted it up here. Did they miss it? I don't think. Okay, so they import the routers. Okay, that's the first step. Like we have seen, they're saying as the files app routers users.py and app routers items.py are submodules that are part of the same Python package, we can use a single dot to import them using relative imports. Yeah, simple, basic, the usual Python that we always do. So how the importing works, this section from routers, import items users. Okay, this is just explaining what you already know, how Python imports stuff. Okay, so I'll just leave that. Okay, let's read, maybe for those who may not. So this means starting in the same package that this module, the file app /main.py lives in the directory app, look for the sub package routers, the directory at app/routers/ and from it import the submodule items, the file at app/routers/items.py, and users the file at app/routers/users.py. The module items will have a variable router. Okay, items.router. This is the same one we created in the file app/routers/items.py. It's an API router object. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, like if you go to routers, okay, there we are. Okay, we have this. So yeah, so from routers import items users, we're simply importing, okay, the modules, but they will have the router. Okay, we'll have the variable router. So they're saying the first is a relative import, saying from routers import that. The second is absolute import, saying from app.routers import that. Okay, yeah, the usual Python stuff. And they are saying to learn more about Python packages and modules, read the official documentation, read the official Python documentation about modules. So yeah, if you know Python, no need for all this. Okay, then they say avoid name collisions. We are importing the same module items directly instead of importing just its variable router. This is because we also have another variable named router in the submodule users. If we imported one after the other, like from router.items import router, from router.users import router, the router from users, okay, would overwrite the one from items and wouldn't be able to use them at the same time. Yeah, that's correct, because they have the same name, so it's a collision. So they're saying, so to be able to use both of them in the same file, we import the submodules directly. Okay, so this is what they did. Okay, from routers, just give us items and users, which is good. So let's continue. Okay, so I'm just scrolling because the point of interest they want us to take note of is this. Okay, and the rest we know them. So they're saying include the API routers for users and items. Now let's include the API routers. Wow, excuse me. Looks like flu is getting the better of me. But let's continue. Now let's include the routers from the submodules, users, and items. And this is how they include them by saying app.include router, users.router. App.include router, items.router. Again, this is the code they want us to pick interest in, what they've just highlighted. If I go on the info, they say users.router contains the API router inside of the file app.routers users.py, and items.py.router contains the API router instead of the file app/routers items.py. Meaning this, okay, contains the router inside here, this router here. And this router here, this items.router is referring to the router inside here in the items module, this one. So they say with app.include router, we can add each API router to the main FastAPI application. It will include all the routes from that router as part of it. Technical details, it will actually internally create a path operation for each path operation that was created in the API router. So behind the scenes, it will work as if everything was the same single app. Okay. So yeah, this is great. Just a moment. All right, let's continue. Check. You don't have to worry about performance when including routers. It will take microseconds and will only happen at startup, so it won't affect performance. Yeah, this is cool. We don't have to worry about anything. Okay. Include an app router with a custom prefix, tags, responses, and dependencies. Now let's imagine your organization gave you the app/internal/admin.py file. It contains an API router with some admin path operations that your organization shares between several projects. For this example, it would be super simple. But let's say that because it is shared with other projects in the organization, we cannot modify it and add a prefix, dependencies, tags, etc. directly to the API router. I need to read this again. But let's say because it is shared with other projects in the organization, we cannot modify it and add a prefix, dependencies, tags, etc. directly to the API router. Okay, so internal admin.py, they have the API router. Okay, and of course they have a one path operation. So they're saying we cannot add the prefix, dependencies, tags. Okay, so they're saying, but we still want to set a custom prefix when including the API router so that all its path operations start with /admin. We want to secure it with the dependencies we already have for this project, and we want to include tags and responses. Okay, So they're saying we can declare all that without having to modify the original API router by passing those parameters to API.include router. Okay. So I'll first copy this and also add it to my admin.py. Excuse me. Okay, let's continue. So if you look at this, okay, they, yeah, simply the same code. So they're saying we have this, okay, and you don't have to modify it by adding a prefix tag. So we don't have that, okay, inside here, okay. There's nothing like prefix equals to something, okay. We're not adding any of that, okay. And they are saying, okay, but we still want to set a custom prefix, okay, when including the router. What do they mean by including the router? When you come, where is it? Main, okay, .py. When we're including the router, we need to add the prefix, okay. So doing app.include router is the process of including a router, okay. So the same when we're including this router here, okay, in admin.py, we want us to set a custom prefix, okay, when including the router, so that all its path operations start with /admin. We want to secure it with the dependencies we already have for this project, and we want to include tags and responses. They're saying we can declare all that without having to modify the original API router by passing those parameters to app.include router. So this stays the same, but app.router can take that data, which is this, okay? So you see we have the admin.router, but we have a prefix, we have a tag, we have a dependency, we have a response. Okay, so this is the point of interest. They've just been explaining, which is also the same right here. Okay, so when I continue, they say that way the original API router will stay unmodified, so we can still share the same app/internal/admin.py file with other projects in the organization. Okay, so yeah, it has not been changed. So we can continue the saying. The result is that in our app, each of the path operations from the admin module will have the prefix /admin, okay, the tag admin, the dependency get token header, and the response that, okay, which is simply this, enabled by all this that they just explained. And then they're saying, but that will only affect that API router in our app and not in any other code that uses it. This is good. So saying, for example, other projects could use the same router with a different authentication method. Okay, so this affects only the API router in our app, okay, and not any other code that uses it. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, good to know. Really nice. So include the path operation. They say we can also add path operations directly to the FastAPI app. Here we do it just to show that we can. Okay, so yeah, this is it. And also here's the last one. Okay, they're showing it as an example, and it will work correctly together with all the other path operations added with app.include router. Very technical details. They're saying not this is a very technical detail that you can probably can just skip. The API routers are not mounted, they are isolated from the rest of the application. This is because we want to include their path operations in the Open API schema and the user interfaces. As we cannot just isolate them and mount them independently of the rest, the path operations are cloned or recreated, not included directly. Okay, good to know. They say check the API docs, run the app. Okay, I don't know if ours is running. So I go this side, try to expand. Well, it's already running. Should be already running. Yeah, usually here it is. It refresh this other one. They say you will see automatic API docs, including the path operations from all the submodules using the correct path, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So they're saying include this. I need to first get this to run. Why is it taking long? Is it because let me kill the server, okay? And find out those which are running. Close this. I can kill 45724. Then again find out and kill 87199. Okay, so nothing is running. And come back here. FastAPI path does not exist main.py. Okay, look at that. Where is this error? Searching for package structure from directories with init.py files. Okay. Oh, yeah, main.py actually is not no longer there. This is correct. And actually, I ignored something. If you look up here, okay, they say run app/main.py. So I'm supposed to do like this app because we change its location, okay, like that. So I can now come back here. I cancel this and refresh. Yeah, so we have all of them, okay, for users, items, admin, and then default root. Okay. Just a moment. All right, let's continue. They're saying include the same router multiple times with prefix. You can also use the .include router multiple times with the same router using different prefixes. This could be useful, for example, to expose the same API under different prefixes, which is API/v1 and API/latest. This is an advanced usage that you might not really need, but it's there in case you do. Okay, they're saying include an API router in another. The same way you can include an API router in a FastAPI application, you can include an API router in another API router using router.include router other router. Make sure you do it before including a router in the FastAPI app. Okay, so that the path operations from other router are also included. Yeah, so that's good to know. Yeah, so I guess that's it concerning routers and working with big applications. I think it actually I think I'm going to change the title of this video, okay, to routers instead of saying big applications. Should be routers. That's the best title for this. Should be routers. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, let's meet in tomorrow's stream where we shall talk about background tasks. Thank you for learning with me. Let's meet tomorrow. Yeah, this has been a good stream. I kind of had flu and I was trying to avoid today's stream, but yeah, I'm good. I'm glad I had lined, and yeah, here we are at the end. Yeah, so whole things about routers. So the first thing was the structure. Then you first, of course, import a router. Okay. Then now you can create your operations from that router. Every file can have the same. Okay. And then after that, you can even define dependencies in a different module. After defining your dependencies which are in a different module, you can add specific configuration, okay, in a router, like the prefix, tags, dependencies, and responses, okay. Then after that, like here for users, okay, like users has no, we have here repetition /users. I can simply come here and say prefix equals to /users, okay. Then I remove this, remove that, remove this, remove this too, okay, just like that to make it easy. And then so that it's built from here. And also they say don't put a / here, okay, because ideally these ones are going to start with /. Then you see tags is also repeated. We have tags equals to users, tags equals to users, tags equals to users. We can remove this, okay, remove that, remove this one too, okay, remove this one too, okay, and simply come here to the API router and say, and paste that. You see, very easy, very easy. If I refresh, you see we get the same thing, okay. If you come here and you read, yeah, basically same experience. If you scroll, come here to the user object, validation error, yeah, typically the same thing. I see, yeah, pretty cool. After that, what else did they have for us? Okay, talk about importing the dependencies, then they were explaining the path. I mean, how you import things, but for our case, it does not really work, okay. Then they're showing here how you can put a custom tag or response. For example, if this one here applies to all, okay, what goes here applies to all path operations, but I can come here and put a custom one, okay, and say maybe tags equals to super, okay. You get, have I made a mistake? Let me see, what are they saying? Was not closed. I need a comma here, okay. Yeah, like that. So all will have users, but this one here will have two. You will have users, the tag users plus super, okay. So this one is custom, and the same applies for responses. Then we went on to look at the main app, okay, where now we include all the routers, okay. So you define your routers, okay. You can create custom general global configuration for those routers or custom for each path operation. After that, you include a router, okay. And then they're saying you can have a router, which, but maybe before that, there's also a name avoiding collision that we looked at. Then they're also saying you can have a router which has, let me see, this is where they explained it, okay. You have a router, okay, which is shared maybe by your organization among several projects, okay, but you don't want to add like a prefix to it, okay. For example, like this one here in the admin.py, they don't want to add any prefix to it, okay. But then when including it, like here, okay, when including using upload include router, you want to be able to add a prefix, okay. You can do that in include router like the way they did for the admin, okay. And here they say that way the original API router will stay unmodified, which is this one here, stays unmodified, okay. And it's saying so we can still share that same app internal admin.py file with other projects in the organization, okay. People can access this router, okay, and it won't have that prefix. But okay, if for those who want the prefix, they can use this. If you go into read, where is it? Where is that explanation? Come on. Yes, say that way original router will stay unmodified, so we can still share that same app/internal/admin.py file with other projects in the organization. The result is that in our app, each of the path operations from the admin module, okay, will have this, okay. So generally in our application, when we are giving it maybe to clients, okay, and you want to access the admin, it will have the prefix admin, the tag admin, the dependency token header, and the response 4118, okay, which comes from this, okay. But that will only affect that API router in our app, not in other code that uses it. For example, other projects that use the same API router with a different authentication method. So in another part of our code, any other part of the code, okay, we can decide to use this one here, okay. But this one will not have these issues, okay, these prefix tags and dependencies. Yeah, so that was me just trying to summarize everything. Thank you for learning with me again today. Meet you tomorrow where we look at another interesting topic. Well, we've come from far. And look at us. I'm almost done with this. We're almost done. Okay. So tomorrow we shall study background tasks and yeah, continue. Have a good rest of the evening, morning, night, afternoon, wherever you're watching from. All right. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.